it's Chris A's known as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. As expected, I have been playing a lot of Control. And I just want to complain a little bit about this game. I do like it, but it has a really strange design choice. The save point / checkpoints are not well placed. And I don't know if you remember, in a previous episode I complained that I had ridden in an elevator so that that would be where my game saved, but it decided that it didn't want to save in that particular elevator. I guess only certain elevators work as save points. And it started me back at the last save point that I activated, and then I had to backtrack a whole way through. But the problem is that kind of save point structure, they're not well placed, there aren't a lot of them, and it's a problem because sometimes you're just walking around and random enemies will come up, and because of the randomness of the enemy AI, sometimes they can get behind you and explode and kill you because Jesse is not particularly tough, and then you die. And then you have to start all the way back where you were and backtrack all the way through those areas to get back to where they killed you. And even worse, this past week, I hit a boss, and that boss fight was extremely difficult. And I had to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And what's worse than having to redo the boss fight over and over and over again is that every time I died, I restarted, and of course the loading screen is epically long every time you die, so it takes forever, and you just get frustrated looking at the freaking loading screen for 5 minutes, and then you're way back at the previous area, so you have to work your way back to the boss fight. And in this case, the problem is that you had to go around a corner and then across a bridge in order to get to the area that you go through to get to the boss fight. But on this bridge, random enemies would just spawn and attack you. So you had to fight these enemies before you could even head to the area where the boss fight was to try the boss fight again. And the problem is that one of these random enemies is like a named enemy. Like, some of them are just randos, but if an enemy has a name, that means that they're going to be tougher to kill. And one of them was that. And it just got so tedious because it was like I would have to fight all these enemies, and that takes another 5 minutes or whatever before I can even go back to try to do the boss fight where I know I'm going to die again. And then I have to go do it all over again. And it just was getting so tedious and so frustrating. It got to the point where I would kill the enemies that were directly in my way, and then I would just run to try to get to the area where I could climb up and get to the boss fight and hope that that named enemy wouldn't catch up to me. At one point I was running down the corridor and I saw the rocket launcher. The rocket went psh past my head, and I was like, I'm okay, didn't hit me. But like, you do this fight and then you end up going into the boss fight with maybe not full health, which is bad enough because Jessie is terrible. She's very easily killed, and that is my main problem with this game. So after doing it a bunch of times, I started skipping as much of the earlier fighting as I could so I could get to the boss fight, but then I would die again. And it was just, I would have been, if the save point was right before the boss fight, I would have been fine. I would have just kept doing the boss fight over and over again until I won. In this case, there was enough backtracking that it was getting really irritating, and it was taking twice as long to do this section, and so I cheated. I'm not proud, but it was either that or rage quit the game. And I don't want to do that because I actually like the story. Like, the story and the plot and the performances and the script, it's all really well done, and I love all the lore, and it's great. So I want to see how it all turns out. And I wasn't going to rage quit because of some stupid boss fight that was pissing me off. So I went in and I turned on assist mode. And there's a slider, like, there's all kinds of stuff. You can turn on immortality, where it says that you'll lose health, but you won't ever actually die. So, like, that's one way of doing it. But what I did was I turned on the slider, I raised the slider where it reduces the amount of damage that Jessie takes. In retrospect, I probably raised it a little too high, because it was really easy when I did it. But it's nice to know that that is an option, because Jessie, like, you can increase her powers and make her stronger and give her stronger telekinesis and a better shield, but you have to activate the shield. There's no, like, armor. You can't upgrade her armor, so she doesn't get any tougher. You can raise your health, but I've already maxed out my health, so I've wasted all my points maxing out my health. Now I'm trying to work on the other things. But, like, she just dies after a couple of hits, and it's super frustrating. Especially when you're just, like, walking down the corridor and, like, these random enemies show up, and then they just get a lucky hit in with a rocket launcher and then kill you. Or one of those exploding enemies. Those are also shitty. And then you're dead. And you gotta do it again. And so, just for this one fight, I raised that slider so that she took less damage. Like I said, it was a little too much. Next time this happens, I won't raise it quite so high. But I turned it off after that fight was done, because I don't normally need it. It's just this particular boss fight was pissing me off. And in fact, shortly after I did this boss fight and did this rest of the story, I went back and I did a side mission that I couldn't do until after I finished that mission. And that side mission entailed going to the astral plane and fighting a giant monster. And it was fine. Like, I was able to do it. And I couldn't actually really have cheated on that one, because it wasn't that I was getting hit a lot. It was that the monster would sometimes destroy parts of the platform. So I would be trying to dodge his attacks, and I would just accidentally I wouldn't be looking where I was going, and I would just fall through a hole. And then I would just die instantly. And then I would have to do it again. So reducing the amount of damage that Jessie takes wouldn't have helped me in that one. But so I did that one, and I was able to do it by myself finally. I just had to pay attention to where the hell I was stepping. But the other thing that is not great about Control is that, A, Jessie is easily damaged, and a couple of hits and you're dead. So, and you can't really upgrade any armor or anything, so that kind of sucks. But what also sucks is that every time you die, you lose a little bit of, I forget what it's called. It's like, you get points when you kill enemies, and then those points are like currency that you use to upgrade your weapons. And thankfully, I saw that I was able to upgrade a weapon. I was able to create a new weapon form. I had enough currency to do that. So I did that because I know that the next time I die, you lose like 10% of that currency. So if you die over and over and over and over and over again, you just lose all that currency, and then you end up with like 100 points, which is useless. And I don't understand that from a design perspective, because basically if you're dying over and over and over and over again, you're losing the ability to upgrade your weapons, which is something that you would want if you were struggling with the game and dying over and over again. So it seems like if you were dying, it should give you extra points so that you can upgrade your weapons and do better at the game. But no, they did it backwards. So it's super annoying. So if you're dying constantly in this game, you're going to have a hard time upgrading your weapons and such, because you'll have lost all your points by dying over and over again. I'm super glad I didn't play this game when it first came out, because there was no assist mode then, and I probably would have just rage quit and watched the ending on YouTube or read a Wikipedia or something about it to get the story. And I would have been pissed because I would have spent $60 on it. So I'm still playing Control, and they just, I don't know, I already had in mind I was going to play, like, I don't know how far I am into it. I feel like I'm well past the halfway point. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through it. But I feel like I should probably finish that soon, and I was thinking about what am I going to play next. And originally I was going to play The Last of Us, because that's been sitting in my PlayStation Plus library for ages, and everybody's already played the sequel, and I still ain't never played the original. But they just announced the PlayStation Plus games for March, and there's a couple in there that I would like to try. One is the Final Fantasy VII Remastered, which I had no interest in, because like I enjoyed Final Fantasy VII when I played it on my PS1 back in the day, although I never technically finished it, because that final boss fight, I would get to the second section of that fight, and he would be like, "You've defeated me." "Oh, but you haven't defeated me. Now I kill you, because I'm more powerful than ever before," and then you die. And it's just, I did it like a gajillion times, and finally was like, you know what, F it. But I'm curious. I don't think I'm going to like it because it's not going to be turn-based battle. It's going to be some wonky active time battle thing, whatever, I don't know. So I don't expect I'm going to be a big fan. I'm kind of gone off the Final Fantasy series, and haven't liked one in a while, so I'm not super psyched about it, but I am curious also because it's not all of Final Fantasy VII. It's just like a chunk of it, the beginning part. I don't even know if it's like a quarter of the game. Maybe it's just like a fifth or a sixth, but it costs like full price. So like people are gonna, if you're gonna play all of the Final Fantasy VII Remastered, it's gonna cost you like hundreds of dollars, which is insane to me, but you do you. But the other one that I wanted to try is Farpoint, which is a PSVR shooter, which I've seen and been like, oh, well, maybe, you know, whatever, but never got around to it. Now it's free, so now I'll definitely give it a try. I will probably be using the controller, because I'm certainly not going to go out and get the AIM controller for it, because, well, that's why waste money on that. I don't know if the Move controllers work with it. I'll see when I do eventually try it. We'll see, because I don't know if the Move controller would be as effective as like holding the plastic gun, which would be really immersive. The Move controllers might not be as immersive, so I might just say fuck it and just use the controller because it'll just be easier to control than with Move controllers. Because I'm not going to go and buy the AIM controller, because what else am I going to use that with? You know, because that's the problem, is you buy a peripheral and then it's only supported by like 1 or 2 games, and then you're like, why did I waste all my money? Which, thankfully, the PSVR is not one of those peripherals. Connect. Sony really helped push the PSVR, and there are plenty of games to play on it, some of which are VR games, and some of which are like things like No Man's Sky and Final Fantasy VII, where they have VR modes. I would have loved to have tried Skyrim in VR, except for the fact that I'm not buying that a third time. But what I'm really excited about is not only are they supporting PSVR and still supporting it, Sony recently announced that they are doing the next generation. Sony announced PSVR 2 for the PS5. So there will be a VR headset for the PS5, and super psyched for higher resolution and better graphics in VR. And also I'm very curious to see, they said they're developing a new controller, which I'm very excited about, because the Move controllers were okay, but they weren't made for VR. They were like adapted for VR, and they worked okay. But there's no thumbsticks, and I'm like, a thumbstick is really helpful to move around. So that'll be really nice to have. So I'm assuming it's one of those things like, you know, with the thumbstick and motion control and whatever. So that'll be cool. I look forward to seeing what they do with that, and the snazzy graphics and stuff. Of course, the PSVR 2, they said, will not be out this year. It's not going to be out till like 2022, which is fine, because I don't even have a PlayStation 5 yet to play it with, so that's fine. I actually thought I almost got one, because it's been super hard. I figured once the Christmas rush was over, I thought maybe I could treat myself to a PlayStation 5 for my birthday in February. That didn't happen. We're heading into March. You still can't get one. I got very excited. I just sort of randomly checked Best Buy like the other week, and it said add to cart instead of sold out. And I was like, what? So I clicked add to cart. And then it didn't add it to my cart. I got a little notice that said, sorry, due to high demand, we're asking customers to go through an additional step. This item is not yet in your cart. What additional step? Like, all I got was that warning that it wasn't in my cart and I had to go through an additional step, but they didn't tell me what additional step I had to do in order to get it into my cart. Like, they didn't say. So I just would click it again, I would refresh it, I would leave, I would come back, and I would click it again, whatever. I kept getting the same things that said, sorry, it's not in your cart yet. And I'm just like, what the hell? This is ridiculous. Like, come on. And then eventually, I don't remember if I gave up and then came back later and it said sold out, or if it eventually just said sold out, and I said, okay, then never mind. But I'm like, Best Buy, if you could just tell me what I need to do in order to get in the queue and get a PlayStation 5, that would have been great. But they didn't. And the problem is that Sony still can't make enough of them to meet demand. And until they can, we're still going to have trouble because the scalpers are going to come in and snatch them all up and sell them at twice the price. And honestly, if you are someone who bought a PlayStation 5 for like $1,000, what is wrong with you? Like, why did you need it so quickly that you had to have it, that you're going to pay twice the price for it? Like, that's insane to me. I mean, unless you're swimming in money, you know, whatever. But I could think of other things to do with that $500, you know. But I will get one eventually. Because eventually Sony will be able to make enough of them that you'll be able to just go online or go into a store, although not right now, going into a store is not great, but go online and just purchase it. Because once they are readily available, the scalpers will back off because you can just get one for $500, so they're not going to be able to sell it for $600 or $800 or $1,000. And they'll just say, all right, never mind, we're done. And the scalpers will back off. And then normal people like me can just go buy one if they want. But it's okay because, like I said in previous episodes, there's no real PS5 exclusives, so I'm not like in a rush to get one. Like, if I could have gotten one then, I would have been excited and I would have had one now and I'd be talking about it, but it didn't happen. Thanks, Best Buy. So, but like, I was fine playing Miles Morales on the PS4, and I guess technically I could play Valhalla on the PS4. I've seen some screenshots, it still looks very pretty. I would just like to wait until it could look super pretty. But depending on how long it takes me to get a PS5, I might give up on my backlog and just buy Valhalla and just say, forget it, I'll just play it on PS4, because I don't care anymore, because I'm sick of waiting. Because it is taking a lot longer than I expected it to, because they're just not able to make enough PS5s. And I think it'll be interesting, actually, to see what I get first. A PS5 or a COVID vaccine shot, because I'm not getting one of those until the summer. I'm way down on the list. So we'll see what happens. So keep checking back. I'll keep you updated. Probably not going to get a PS5. I'm sure that's not what I'm going to talk about next week. Actually, next episode, I have some Pokemon stuff I want to talk about that I just couldn't fit in here because this is already getting way too long. So I'm cutting it short. We're done. I'm out. See you next time. Bye.